All right, you're looking live at episode number 5 of Spirit Notes broadcast YouTube production here in Stephenville, Texas. And to my right, I have the rhythm section of the Immediate Blues Band, Mr. Wade Whitehead and Dr. Wayne Atchley. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Absolutely.
So, we've been playing music for, I think Kyle said 2008, but, it's always been variations of different band members here and there, but when we got Wade and Wayne on the drums and the bass, everything just seems to fall into place. The rhythm is what holds everything together, and I told those guys the other day, man, I was like, the biggest fun I have is just playing rhythm with the pocket here, and then letting those two just, go off on solos.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun. I mean, at IBB, we don't have egos. We just go in, we have fun, we play music. We take it seriously, but for the most part, we just get out there and we like to have fun. So the rhythm in any band, I think the rhythm section is critical and crucial to have consistency. And, Wade is great. He's like a metronome, just keeping us in time every time. And Wayne is always keeping us in line with where we're at with the chordage and the flow of the structure of the song. So it's always great to fall back on these guys, and that's what's fun about playing with them is they're great musicians, and they can just we can transform songs into different tempos, different key changes, and make it our own. And so, fellas, it's a pleasure to play with you guys, both of you, and we're just gonna rock it out as long as we can. I don't know how long this will go, but I'm anxious to see where it leads us. So.
I hope it goes until I'm done playing. That's what I want to know.
All right, we're going to take our first segment entitled, What Are You Sipping On? All right, tonight's whiskey of choice is Larceny. Larceny is a product out of the Heaven Hill Distillery. It's a 92 proof. It is a wheated bourbon. I love the wheated bourbon, so Larceny is a good, change up from the usual that I usually get. It's a mash bill that is undisclosed, but it's corn, barley, rye, wheat, and got a little cinnamon taste on the front end, a little spice. Got a little honey on the back. It's like a little maple sugar. Great with ice in a cocktail or even straight. Old Fitzgerald is kind of the predecessor to Larceny, but they've got into the wheated bourbons with Maker's Mark and W.O. Weller and all those guys. And this is their concoction of the wheated bourbon. So that's what we're drinking tonight. So try it out if you haven't tried Larceny. All right, boys. Well, let's get after it. I had Carrie and Kyle on here last time, and we talked about various things, of course, of history, how long we've been together, and influences, and when you started playing. So I think we'll take the same format. And Wade, when did you start playing drums, man?
I would say my dad showed up in the 4th grade.
4th grade?
And he had a drum set for me.
Right.
And I was like, what is this?
Remember the brand?
Slingerland.
Slingerland.
Yeah. And he set it up. He was like, hey, I was interested. I started banging on it. Mm-hmm. Within not very long, he's like, you can't play until we're gone. And so I had to wait till they left.
Did you have it set up in your room? Or?
It was in my room.
Yeah.
But he claimed it was a little bit loud in the
Still
house.
Too loud.
Yeah. So 4th grade was when I kind of started playing. I really didn't know what I was playing. I was just beating the drums. Then I got a little older. I got into band.
Yeah.
And started playing, percussion in the band, and that's where it all started.
Nice. Slingerland, they've been around forever, and the band that we're going to introduce on for the record is Rush, and Neil Peart's a Slingerland guy at first. He moved on to Tama and stuff, but
Gotcha.
I remember him had the double bass Slingerland kit, mm-hmm. and he had to get 2 different kits because they didn't have an option for a double bass. And
right.
He's like, man, I had to get that double bass down, and I didn't know how to do it, and so he got 2 different kits, built them together. And that's probably where you got the idea of putting all these damn drums together, because you had 2 kits to work with. But yeah, Slingerland was jazz kits, and they sounded really good. And they're actually fetching a lot of money now.
I wish I had that set now, because
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what happened to it, but you know, I upgraded and tossed that one to the side.
My first kit, real kit, was a Pearl.
Gotcha.
And had kind of like the Ringo Starr look, you know, had all the black and silver, you know, inlays, and it was cool. But yeah, it was probably a piece of junk at the time, but for me, it was freaking
good.
awesome. Yeah. Wayne, when did you start playing the bass?
So, started playing the bass in my 7th grade year of middle school. I actually started playing music from the time I can remember, blowing on my dad's tuba. So it was always around the house. He was in the shrine band and played in band in high school and stuff. And then tried different things throughout the years. I think I got a set of Ludwig drums. There were silver Ludwigs with some Zildjian cymbals. He got me that when I was probably in the 4th or 5th grade. Got a few pictures of me playing it, but it didn't have a hi-hat or a bass drum pedal.
That would be hard to play.
Yeah, so I just randomly hit things. It stayed set up in our front room forever, and I still have, I think, maybe the floor tom from that kit.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
But you know, I was playing tuba in band, and the high school band director came to my dad and said, "Hey, your son's you know, he can read music. He's got natural musical ability. Why don't he pick up bass? And 2 more years, I'm going to need a bass player in the high school."
Really?
And so that Christmas, my dad bought me a Phoenix bass. It's kind of off-brand, like a Gibson knockoff, and a massive double 15 500 watt PVM.
Wow.
And so that's what
That was brave of them.
Yeah, so that's what I started playing on. And then in my 8th grade year, I took a shine to my uncle, who was a rock bass player, and we went and bought my first real bass that spring, which was a Fender Jazz Bass Special. Had like the precision and the jazz pickups on it.
Wow, yeah.
Kind of narrow body, and I took that and played it in Colorado on my first trip in the 8th grade with the high school band. So
Nice. So y'all had a jazz band that we had a bass. That's awesome.
So
And what, you went to Castleberry?
Castleberry High School, and we were really known for our jazz program.
Yeah.
Phil Lakeman was my high school band director, and you know, Mr. Jeff James is who let me play in middle school. We had kind of a second jazz band whenever I was in middle school, and I played bass as a 8th grader in the high school's second band. And so it started with him, but Mr. Lakeman really saw the potential and allowed me to do it, and I owe him everything for that. He was a great teacher and gave me a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
As a little bitty kid playing a really big bass guitar. So.
And as a music teacher in our school, I mean, you want those guys that are out there that are not afraid to, you know, push kids and introduce things to kids. And that's the cool thing about great, you know, music programs in school. And, you know, when they start cutting funding, one of the first things they cut is arts and music.
Yeah.
And that's terrible to me, because I love, those are the 2 things that I love. And, you know, I always hate it. Of course, you know, sports gets all the accolades and the money, and that brings a lot of people in. But, man, music and art it has to be a part of the school experience, because without it, you lose so much.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we didn't have all that. I didn't play marching band in school, and I did sports.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to do a whole lot of that, you know, mixing of the 2. But and me and the band director didn't get along real well, so that didn't help things. I hated reading music, and I could hear the song and I could play it out, and she would be like, "You're not reading the music." And I said, "But is it right?" And she was like, "That's not the point." And I was like, "I'm out." Because I always played by feel. I started, my first, you know, instrument was drums. I started when I was like 4 and 5, and, you know, the drums were where I, you know, got the rhythm and the tempos and things that helped me today. But, you know, I never played by ear, you know, by music notation. I always played by ear, and that's been a benefit in some ways, but a huge detriment in others. So did you read music when you were playing drums? You had to?
Once I started band.
Yeah.
But I think originally I started just listening to a song and sit down and try to play it, or play with the music.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you know, the drum music that you learn to play isn't a kit. You know, it's just the snare or the bass drum. So it's different. To this day, I still just listen to it.
Yeah.
We want to learn a song. We don't go order the music, and we just learn it by and play it by ear. So
Yeah. And so, not having had that school band experience or marching band experience, how different is it, like, because I don't really know, because, like, if you have a musical piece that you're trying to play, you have one guy playing snare, one guy playing kick, basically with the,
bass drum.
with the bass drum, and then you have another guy doing the hi-hats. How difficult is that to be able to pull that off? Because, I've got my right foot on bass, left foot on hi-hat, snare.
I think it's all timing.
Yeah.
If everybody's on the same time and on the same beat, you're fine, and everybody's playing their part. When it's yourself, it's a little easier,
Right.
because you know what you're doing.
Yes.
You're relying on other people when you're in the band format, so it's a little harder.
So you grew up in the Comanche County area. Did you do the typical I'm going to play football, but then I'm going to run out there without my shoulder pads and get out there and march?
So I was one of the only ones that did band and athletics. They didn't like for you to do both,
Okay.
and I liked both.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was decent at both. Where I went to school, it wasn't a very big school in DeLeon, so they needed everybody to play on the football team,
Right.
but they needed you in the band too. So younger, it was fine. It never conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got into high school, then they wouldn't let me march because I had to play.
Right.
I have heard some people let them come out at halftime and play, but they wouldn't let us.
Yeah. We had about 3 guys that did that when I was in high school, because it was a small one in high school, and they needed everybody out there.
Right.
And they'd go out there, and I felt bad for them, because we're out there getting Gatorade and
It's their
getting
break.
chewed on, but they're out there getting to march and play music. But they had their shoulder pads off, but they had their cleats on and their pants, and man, it was doubly tough for them because
Yeah.
they were tired as well. So
I enjoyed it. It allowed me to do both things that I loved.
Right.
And so I'm glad that I did both. Once football season was over, it wasn't a problem at all.
Mhm.
That's the only thing that really conflicted with marching or anything like that.
yeah. So both of you guys have kids in the high school band here in Stephenville, and both in percussion.
Yep.
And they're both great. We went out there, Kyle and Stacy and I, and watched the performance they did with the drum line, and it was awesome. And I was like, just kind of like grooving, because it was like I wanted to be out there playing too. But Stacy's son was like, "Oh, this is boring." I said, "No, it's not."
Wow.
I said, "Listen to it." I said, because he's into hard rock and stuff right now, and I said, hear what they're playing, and then imagine heavy guitars going along with it.
Right.
Because there was one song that sounded like, to me, like a Tool song. Like, there's a lot of space, and there was a lot of time, register changes, and it was awesome. And I said, just listen to it, and just imagine that sound going with this beat and these drums. And then he turned around and he was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it was like, that's, music appreciation is something that we all have to have in college, and and that's a good thing, because it forces you to learn and listen to music that you probably wouldn't, but it also gives you an appreciation as to the arts and music and whatever you do as far as your medium in art is something that every kid should enjoy and experience, and it broadens your scope of education when you do that.
And for your audience, if you're interested in the performance he's talking about, I have a YouTube channel, Wayne Atchley. That's all you do. There's nothing on it except like drum performances and stuff of my kids. But it's called Jacket Jam, and so there's a link out there to the previous Jacket Jams and to the one this year. So and indoor drum line. So if you're interested at all in what Stephenville Indoor Drum Line, the Yellow Jacket Band, is doing, then you can see a lot of that stuff on my YouTube channel.
I'll try to put a link in the
Good.
descriptions here
Good.
after this goes up to YouTube. So did your kids, did they listen to you, what you were doing, and kind of like, Dad, I want to play that as well? Or how did your kids get into it?
So with mine, Aaron is my oldest, and he kind of takes after me a lot. And he wanted to be in band. I, of course, am a band dad, like hardcore.
Right.
And so I wanted him to be in band. And percussion was, as a rhythm player, percussion was always the cool section to be in. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to discount any other ones, because trumpet is awesome, and I had the most fun playing tuba throughout high school and college. But the rhythm section and the drumline always looked like they had so much fun. And so he took a shine to that and just loved it. And and Austin kind of followed that same vein. He's like, that sounds fun, that looks fun, I want to do it. And so that's how they got kind of going into it. And I'm hoping that they both will take that into college and experience it. I mean, I have lifelong friends from TCU's marching band that I still talk to virtually every day through, Slack or our email group that we have. And so I still see all those guys, and that's bonds that were made in band. And you get into high school, and there's 100, 150 people that you already know because they're part of the band, and you instantly have a family. Yeah. So.
And let me expand on that. You were part of the TCU band, jazz band, and y'all went to Spain a couple of years ago, right?
Yes, we did. So our band director, Kurt Wilson, is a phenomenal jazz band director. And so he made such an impression on all of us that a group of alumni got together several years ago and said, hey, let's go on a European tour. And so I was fortunate 2 years ago for them to call me and say, hey, we want to take you to Spain. Are you interested in going? And so we toured Portugal and Spain, played 4 or 5 concerts all over. Amazing charts, Stan Kenton arrangements of stuff, just music that I grew up with. That most rock players probably wouldn't listen to it. If you heard, you'd go, "Oh my God, that band is so hot!" I mean, there's screaming trumpets, an amazing rhythm section, and so I got to do that. I'm very fortunate. I hope we get to repeat that soon. COVID put a damper on our plans last year, so we couldn't announce where we're going to go. Yeah. But I'm hoping that they'll come out and say, "Hey, we're going to go to Greece in 2 years. Do you want to go?" Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. So that's awesome, man. So how did
Cade? I mean, he's our only kid. From the day he was born, there was always a drum set in the upstairs room. Right. And he grew up hitting it and interested in watching me and playing. Right. So I mean, I've always told him, if you want to play guitar, you're out of luck because I can't help you. And anything like that. But I said, if you want to play drums, I can help you. And so he would sit down and listen to me, and from early on, and he would then I got him the little Ludwig Jr. kit, and then we just have built up. But it's something that the experiences I've had, the people I've met, the places I've played, the things we've done, the fun we've had, I want that for him. Yeah. And without being a musician or a drummer or whatever, he's not going to experience that. And it wasn't all good. I mean, we've all been in those bands that, the dude doesn't show up with his amp. And, what are you going to do here? Exactly. But that's one thing I appreciate about this group is that everybody's got it together. Yeah. And they've got good equipment. You don't have to worry about somebody's amp not working. No. So, I want that experience for Cade. Yeah. And I don't know how long he'll stick with it, but at least he's on the right path. And I feel like, thinking back to my own experiences, those garage bands I played with, when we'd say, hey, let's learn an AC/DC song. And we'd play it, and it was probably horrible, but we didn't think so. Yeah. I mean, once he experiences that, I think he's hooked. Yeah. And,
he's probably hooked already.
I hope so. With the Jacket Jam and all the stuff they do, he loves it. But I hope that he will experience some of those things and be able to play different places and do different things, and because that's a lot of fun. And look at us. Yeah. I mean, we're still here. We're still doing it. Hey. So
we're in our late 30s and we're still playing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm 32, but anyway.
And so one thing that I think a lot of people don't really realize is how much time high school bands actually put into it. Sure. I mean, y'all are probably busy all summer with camps. And when does the band two-a-day start? Did they start with the football schedule, or is it way before that?
Well, they already had. Yeah. They already had some.
They had a camp right at the end of school. We have one in July, and then band camp officially starts August 2nd, I think, for the full band.
Practicing for the parade.
Yeah, they got a parade practice on July 2nd.
Yes.
And those will be marching the 4th of July parade downtown Stephenville, which is kind of cool. All right. So that's going to be interesting. But
cool.
Yeah, they put in a lot of time, a lot of hours. I mean, a lot of people don't, unless you live around the school and you can hear them practicing, at the butt crack of dawn. Up until the evening, because they have morning rehearsals, and then they put in some evening rehearsals before the game. And then, on football game days, most of the time they don't really leave school. They go and grab something to eat, but they're there loading the buses and trailers. And
it's a lot of work.
yeah, but it's really, when you talk to them, you get to know some of those kids. They love it.
Yeah.
They have such a good time.
So it's kind of conditioning them to the band experience, because we do the same type thing. It's just, 1 o'clock in the morning when we're loading out.
Yeah.
But it's a long day.
Yeah, it is.
People think, oh, you're just playing for 3 hours, but man, you're putting time and effort into
The setup.
Yeah, the setup. I mean, you get there way before, and you got to go through, sound check, and then the time that you get to play is the sweet spot. But then you got to break it down.
Yep.
You got to put it all up, and then you got to drive home.
Yeah, the running joke that I always make with people is I've not made $1 playing bass.
No.
All my money is paying me to set up the equipment,
Yeah.
tear it down, buy new stuff when I break it.
Yeah.
But
I'm down at least 18, 20 grand on equipment,
Yeah.
from the amount I put into it versus the amount we get paid. But
Yeah.
if we did it for the money, then none of us would do it.
Right, yeah.
We do it for the experience, like you said. And it's almost, like the locker room experience, when you're in there, you're playing and you're doing all these things. I mean, to me, the Tone Lab is our locker room where
Yeah.
we can
Oh, yeah.
have fun and let loose and say things that we normally wouldn't
what
say.
happens in the Tone Lab stays in the Tone Lab, little cowboy.
We got pictures to prove it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our next segment entitled, What Are You Listening To? All right, and the fella I'm listening to currently is Zafani O'Hara. He's a fella out of Brooklyn, New York. He's playing traditional old school country music in the hipster realm. He's from Brooklyn, New York. One of his big albums right now is called Black and Blue. Zafania O'Hara. You can find him on all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. But if you like old classic country, check him out. He sounds like Merle Haggard in a kind of a creepy way, because it's like really, really sounding like he was out of 1968 or something. But who you guys listening to? You got anybody that you're currently turned on to, new to you?
Well, new to me a little bit. They're old, but I discovered Finger 11.
Finger 11?
Yeah. There's a song that I want us to play as a band, so I've been listening to that one nonstop to get the words in my head and the
What
bass
song
part.
you want to try to do?
Paralyzer.
Yeah.
It has a really cool bass riff.
Yep.
I mean, the drum groove is just fun, and I can yell it, and it don't have to be musical to sing it. So I like that. And then I really get stuck in a rut a lot of times, listening to the same songs over and over. So when I'm working on my car out in the yard, I'm listening to Rush, entire discography on repeat. And you can listen to Rush for 20 hours and never hear the same song.
Yeah.
It might actually be the same song.
Their catalog is amazing.
And then just like old Johnny Cash stuff.
Yeah.
He remade, what is it? Hurt.
Hurt, yeah.
And
Trent Reznor.
Yeah, and then one
Bill
of
is
them,
gone. I mean, he
and
made
then the
all-
Johnny Cash tune. So why can't I drawing a blank on that song? But yeah, so I get in a rut. But then I've got Sirius XM, so I'm like going through stations nonstop. I'll get stuck on a Dave Matthews Band live, show.
Oh, the bass player, what's his name?
Stephen Lessard.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And then, of course, I've got my favorite all-time band is Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. And they're kind of a bluegrass, jazz, fusion, funk. Their bass player is a guy named Victor Wooten. I say a guy, he's a god. The man is amazing, and he's so down to earth. And so I listen to a lot of Bella Fleck and the Flecktones.
Who did Bella Fleck play with before he went out on his own?
I think he was with Mark O'Connor in the new Nashville Cats or the Newgrass Revival or something.
Newgrass Revival. I saw a documentary on that, and I almost texted you because he went through some different configurations and different bass players, and when he got Bella, he was just like, or banjo. I mean, he played the banjo with him, and he brought this life to the sound that they were desperately needing at the time, and And then when he left the band and started his own thing, you know, he talked about Victor Wooten and all those guys, and I was just like, oh man, that's right up Wayne's alley.
And he does some crazy stuff. He has some some classical banjo that he does with I think Edgar Meyer on upright bass, and it's amazing. He performed with a string quartet or quintet called Brooklyn Rider. My wife and I went and saw them at the Dallas Majestic. But the last time I saw him, he was performing with Chick Corea, and if you don't know who Chick Corea is, you're missing out. He's an amazing artist. He just passed away this past year.
Yeah, he did.
What
instrument did he play?
Piano.
There you go.
And we actually played Chick Corea's Spain on our tour of Spain when we were there. But just amazing musicians all around, just down to earth guys too. I mean, after their concerts, the Flecktones will sit on the stage. Yeah. Bello come down and talk to you, and
very approachable.
Yeah, and amazing musicians. I mean, not pretentious at all. So.
I believe the second episode of this podcast, I did Miles Davis' Bitches Brew. Mm-hmm. That was a conceptual, very outlandish album at the time, because Miles was getting into the electric side of things, of jazz. Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, all these guys are laying down the piano parts on the Fender Rhodes, and I mean, it was just like he just let them have full control of whatever they wanted to play. He gave them a structure and said, play. And Miles, man, at the time was just like on another level. He was out there. But I saw an interview where Chick was like, man, I was scared of Miles whenever we first started playing. He said, I was just a young kid. He was like 19 or 20 when he started playing with him. And he said, man, he'd look at you and he would just stare at you and he'd say, show me what you got. And if you didn't have it, next. Yeah. So, Wade, anything you're listening to currently that's new or fun?
I would say not new. I mean, I always listen to Rush.
Rush?
Pretty regular. A lot of Metallica.
Yeah.
Probably one of the newer bands is the 21 Pilots. I like a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
But
great drum beats.
Yeah, they are. I like a lot of variety.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it wouldn't... Just a lot of different things.
I think that shows up in your playing. Because you never get in a rut. I mean, you'll have a groove going and you can pick up on those influences of who you listen to, which is really nice.
And I think early on, I was asked to be in the jazz band. I didn't know how to play jazz. Well, it was tough.
Yeah.
And then I played in country bands and then rock bands. And so I think, the more variety of styles you can play, the better.
Yeah. And kind of speaking of that, Metallica just is fixing to unleash the Black Album. They did, 12 songs on the Black Album. There's 53 songs on this new configuration that they're coming out with. Chris Stapleton is playing Nothing Else Matters. He did his own version. And they were like, we want you to play our songs, but you do what you want with them.
Your way.
There's all kinds of artists that are on there that are doing... they're like, there's 4 different versions of Nothing Else Matters. Miley Cyrus has a different version. I mean, all these artists, that's what's cool about Metallica is they're always pushing the envelope, but sonically, but to allow these artists to just totally revamp a total, new take on a song. I can't wait to hear it. I haven't heard it yet, but I heard it's freaking crazy. I saw some clips on YouTube, but they're not releasing all of it just yet. But it's going to be fun to listen to because, and that's kind of what we do with IBB is, we take a song and we make it our own, and it could be very similar or it could be totally different.
Yeah.
And I know that irritates the hell out of Wayne sometimes because it could be in the key of E and then we drop it to A or whatever, and then we change the tempo and it's not the way you hear it in your head because you hear it the studio version, and then we're doing something totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what's cool about what we do.
Well, I'm much more flexible about that now. My problem is if y'all do that with a song that I'm trying to sing, because I can only sing it back in the way I hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Because I am
singing in your car, right?
Because I was not in choir. I never professed to be a singer. Yeah. In fact, the first song that I sang with IBB was a goof. I mean, we were just,
which one was it?
Black Betty.
Yeah.
We were just goofing around, and I started like making fun of trying to sing it. And y'all went, "Hey, you got to sing that one."
Yes.
So now I got to sing that one, but and I like it, but
it's a crowd favorite.
Yeah, if I can't hear it coming out of my mouth the way I hear it from the recording in my head, it just screws me all to hell.
Yeah. And that's one thing that we try to do is we try to push each other. And one thing that we've done is try to get Wayne to sing more because, you know, it's just fun to hear
Love Shack.
And we did AC/DC, Long Way to the Top. And, you know, and I was listening to some YouTube stuff and, you know, you get lost in that rabbit hole. And I was like, oh, Wayne could kill that. And we tried it first take. I was like, all right, man, that's yours.
Yeah, that's a second set after some moonshine song.
But where did they put it our last set?
Oh, I didn't want to start
First.
with it. I was like, what? No. Yeah.
I knew that Wayne wouldn't go for that one.
Yeah, but you know, we try to make things fun and fresh, and anytime we can get Wayne on the vocals, it's always fun. So.
Well, and I like it. I mean, I don't think I could ever sing without my bass.
Yeah.
Because that provides me a level of comfort and cover.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. I have fun, and as long as it's a song where the bass part is either complementary to what I'm singing or just lays out or is just pedal notes, then I can usually pull it off.
That's awesome. All right, and that brings us to our next segment, which is entitled "For the Record." All right, tonight's record that we have is the Farewell to the Kings, a Rush conceptual album. Would you be safe to say that is a conceptual album? This album particularly was recorded in 1977. Some of the things that they introduced was they got out of their comfort zone. They recorded everything previously that in Toronto, and they went to Wells in this little cottage and set up a studio, and they were experimenting sonically with all kinds of new instrumentation, a lot of orchestra, chimes, bells, drums. Closer to Your Heart is off this album. And so it was just really trying to get a different sound because they were coming off some really strange sounds in their previous album, 2012, and I think this was kind of a follow-up to get back kind of into the groove, but they really did their own thing, and Rush at the time was kind of, I mean, they were pushing the envelope. They were trying to figure out what they could do sonically, and this album is kind of like that as well. I know you're a big Rush fan, and both of you actually. So, what do you know about, and what can you speak on this particular album?
On this album, I mean, it's see my Rush experience is strange because I didn't like rock music really until I heard Rush.
Right.
And I was at my neighbor's house, and it was Tom Sawyer. He had an 8-track of moving pictures, and so that was like the first time I ever heard bass as a, oh my God, what is that? That was awesome. So after that, I just started getting every song that I could. So I didn't have a local record shop near my house or anything, and so I would just get tapes from my friends who would say, "Hey, listen to these Rush songs."
Right.
So
kind of bootleg.
Yeah. So I can't in 100% confidence tell you what songs are on what album. But if you tell me the name of the song, I can tell you. I can probably sing the lyrics and hum the bass part. I can't play half of them, but. But Xanadu, I think, is on that album. Xanadu is a great song.
Yeah.
Not the Olivia Newton-John Xanadu. Don't listen to that one. That one's crap. But this one is amazing. So
that's awesome.
I kind of started with Moving Pictures. That's kind of the one that got me hooked on Rush. And so obviously with playing the drums, Neil Peart was what brought me that way. Brought me to Rush.
As a drummer, I mean, Neil is like. It doesn't get.
And we lost him a year ago, a little over a year ago, by the way. So that was, I'd never understood how people could cry when a celebrity died. And I'm being 100% honest. I was in my office at Tarleton, and I read the news, and I like broke down because I was listening to Rush at the time when I read the news, and I was like, man, that there's no way that man had an influence on me. He doesn't have a clue who I am, and I know nothing about him personally. Yeah. But just having one of your childhood idols die was.
I was like that with two celebrities. One was Chris Cornell, Soundgarden, did all that. I mean, I grew up in that era where Soundgarden was huge, and all the influences to the grunge with Nirvana and everything else, Pearl Jam, and then Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
He was a chef, critic, author, and music lover. And I loved I had all his books, and I still do. And then I had just a deep love for all his videos and his everything he did with his shows. But yeah, it's weird, man. It's like I don't know these guys, but it really hurt when they were gone.
And I interrupted you, so
that's okay. The thing about Neil Peart, to me, is nobody sounds like him.
No.
He is constantly changing. His beats are just, they're unique.
Yeah, they are.
And you can listen to 20 bands and they're similar. You immediately hear Rush and you know who it is. And I think Geddy Lee's the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, his bass playing is very unique to him.
And his vocals.
And vocals, right?
You can't mistake.
I think they're different than most. I think that's what drew me to them.
Now, when you listen to them, because you're a guitar player, you're a drummer, but a guitar player, because Alex Lifeson gets a really bad rap as being the weakest member of the band. But so what's your take on that?
To me, he is the weakest because I'm listening to the drums and to the bass. But that's not to say he's not great. Alex Lifeson is an amazing guitar player, an amazing songwriter.
Yeah.
But when I'm listening to Rush, first thing I go to is drums, and then bass, and then guitar. And that's weird because usually it's opposite. Usually I'm listening to the guitar player first, but not with Rush. With Rush, I'm listening to the drums and the bass.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only band that I can think of. Maybe Tool. Well, no. Tool's drummer, is on another level. But, Rush is a band that is strange for me.
And they're three-piece.
And they're three-piece. Power trio, man.
Yeah, they have some amazing sounds.
So much sound coming out of three instruments.
Well, and they there's a really good documentary on them called Beyond the Lighted Stage, and Geddy Lee has a quote in that where he says, people always came to us and said, less is more, and for Rush, more is more. And so you've got a guitar player who's got multiple pedals and he's got a 12-string on a stand and a guitar, and he's playing both of them in La Villa Strangiato. And then you've got Neil Peart, who's got 2 drum kits that rotate around so he can play both. And then you got Geddy Lee singing and playing Taurus pedals with his feet while he's got a keyboard part going and playing the bass part.
That's what was cool about Rush is they weren't afraid to take a look at new things coming out because like the synthesizers, the Moogs and the 4 pedals that they were using at all the Roland stuff. They were like whatever was coming out at the time. They were like not afraid to try it out, not afraid to experiment with it, and they played it live, which is very hard because when you're in the studio, you can do all kinds of tricks and techniques, but when you play it live, you got to be on your game. And Alex was, he's got a great tone. He's got all the guitars. He's got all the chops. But I still, when I listen to Rush, I listen to Neil Peart first, and then Geddy on the drum, the bass, and then Alex, which is totally different what I usually do, because I'm always listening for the guitars first. I don't care what genre it is. I'm always hearing the guitars first.
Well, I'm a closeted but very jealous drummer, because even though I play bass, I'm in the same boat. When I listen to Rush, as amazing as Geddy Lee is, and how much I admire and want to be able to play like that, I can't not hear the drums. And play air drum. There's not a solo live that can hear YYZ that doesn't play the drum fills in their car.
Yeah. But if you listen to him on almost every song, his beat does not stay the same.
Right.
He changes the rhythm every 4 to 6, 8 measures. It's constantly changing.
Have you heard the Buddy Rich stuff that he did? He was a huge influenced by Buddy Rich.
Okay.
And there's a Buddy Rich tribute concert where they have a jazz band playing YYZ.
Really? And
he's on a normal kit, like a 5-piece kit with normal cymbals, and it still sounds like Neil Peart, who has normally 110 different options. Amazing. I think Bunny Brunel plays the bass on that, and he nails some Geddy Lee stuff.
Yeah.
But the lead, the line to that song is played on a soprano sax. But it is crazy good.
And Neil was an interesting guy in general. In that documentary, he takes off for 2 years?
Yeah.
And he's gone. And, Alex and Geddy are like, we doing this again, or where are we at? And then he finally comes back, and he's like, all right, well,
Yeah, he
see
had
what we can do.
a lot of personal tragedy.
Yep.
His daughter died, his wife died.
Yeah.
And then he went on a motorcycle ride where I think he rode from Canada to the south tip of the South America all the way to the Arctic
Yes.
Circle
Yeah,
on a BMW motorcycle.
yeah.
There's a great book called Ghost Rider that he wrote about that experience because he's got a PhD in literature, I think. So
I was in Mesa National Park in Colorado, and Mesa Verde, and there was this older guy, probably in his 60s, and he was on a BMW motorcycle, and he had stickers all over it. You could barely tell it was a BMW with all these stickers on it. And very eccentric type of guy. He's from Europe, and I think he was Italian. And I started talking with him, and he was just one of those older guys that he just very interesting. And he said he just that's what he wanted to do, is just tour America on a motorcycle. And he was just going up and down wherever the road would take him. And that's kind of how I pictured when I saw the documentary. That's the first thing I thought of was that guy that I met.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much courage to be able to jump on a bike and just take off, and to be gone for 2 years. I mean, that's crazy. But he was on a spiritual journey, an emotional journey, and he was just trying to find solutions and answers. And when he finally came back, he was like, all right, let's do this.
yeah, so Rush in Rio was like their first big concert, I think, after he got back. And if you've never seen that concert, that's an amazing one.
Yes.
Huge stadium full of thousands of people. You can't even hear the vocals and you can hear
Everybody's yelling.
Everybody's just singing it.
Yep.
So yeah, really cool.
And that's what's hard about Rush is Geddy's not he's a great vocalist. He just doesn't have this sound that you want to listen to more of. You have to really be into Rush to get
So
Rush.
I'm the anomaly because I could listen to Rush all day.
Yeah, but a lot of people can't.
Right. Yeah. It's acquired taste,
It's an acquired taste.
or definitely one that you have to appreciate. And I think a lot of what makes it palatable for at least me is the musicality that is behind everything. I mean, the
Right.
fact that he's singing, playing keyboards and a bass, and then you've got this phenomenal drummer, and then Alex Lifeson, who's just laying out some sweet guitar, cracked note here and there, or the high pitched stuff. I mean, my dogs start barking, but
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I love it.
When I had Carrie and Kyle on, we were talking about influences and what we played when we first got started. So obviously Rush for both of you, but what else did you listen to when you were first getting going?
A lot of Metallica,
Yeah,
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden.
Let's see. A lot of
What's his
them
name? Nico, the drummer?
Nico
Something.
Brain,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I liked Metallica. I mean, not Metallica. Van Halen, Ozzy. I mean, I liked a wide variety of stuff.
Did you have this similar experience like I did growing up in a small rural town where you listened to all that kind of stuff and weren't into so much the George Strait, Garth Brooks at the time?
No way. I mean, I really wasn't.
Yeah.
But, there weren't that many that listened to that. And if you did listen to it, you were like a rebel. What are you listening to that? It's, devil music, whatever. But anyway, I liked it. And, I couldn't tell you what the lyrics said. I was listening to the music.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were saying.
The music spoke to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the lyrics.
Yeah. And I was kind of the same way, man. When I was growing up, I was not conforming to what was the standard at the time, which was Garth Brooks, George Strait, Alan Jackson. I was listening to, Ozzy, Metallica, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Slayer. I was into the good stuff. And I wore an Ozzy t-shirt to school one time, and I took an extra shirt with me just because I
in
knew.
case.
And the principal just looked at me, he's like, Lopez, you got to take that shirt off. He was bark at the moon, and he's like this. And I was like, I had to wear it, man.
Yeah. Try it out.
Yeah. What else did you listen to besides Rush?
Besides Rush, so my uncle was a bass player, and so I listened to his band a lot, and so he was playing a lot of Tom Petty and things like that. But the first record that he brought me to listen to was actually a bass player named Stanley Clarke, Return to Forever. But on his solo album, the A side is electric bass. He played an limbic bass. It was amazing. And then on the back side was all upright. And so there's a song called Lopsy Lou, which is just like a 12-minute thing.
Standard.
Like it's amazing. And so that, and then the Brothers Johnson, Jaco Pastorius, who is probably the king, played with Joni Mitchell and so it's great. So I'm pretty eclectic. But the song that got me my first real bass once I stepped up from that Gibson, or that Phoenix was a Gibson knockoff, was Roy Orbison, Don't Worry. It was one of my dad's favorite songs.
Really?
They bust on the recording. The bass amp was busted, but it had a solo in it, and so it had this fuzz wah sound. And he challenged me and said, "Hey, if you'll learn this song fully with the bass solo and everything, we'll go to the Dallas Guitar Show and buy you a new bass." And that's when I went and got a new bass because of that song.
Wow.
But influences were far-reaching. It just, I listened to, y'all weren't in Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we had a radio station at the time, which was 97.1 The Eagle. And that's when Kid Craddock was still alive, and a rock DJ. He wasn't doing the Kiss 106 stuff.
Right.
But they had these, it was all what we consider classic rock now.
Yeah.
So I listened to all of that stuff. But, mixed into there was Two Live Crew and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so I never had a dedicated, I'm going to listen to this only. I was one of those weird guys. I loved Young Country. We had a radio station called Young Country KYNG, 105.3, and it was all Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson, Mark Chestnut, and all those guys. And so if it had a decent sound to it, I was going to listen to it. I just liked it. So I'm all over the board, which is why my bass playing is the way it is, because I might throw in some reggae stuff from a Police song that I heard, or Bob Marley. It just depends, So.
And that's where I'm at too musically. I can go from Buck Owens to Metallica in a heartbeat. My Spotify is all over the map.
Yeah.
And I like that because you don't get confined to one genre. If you allow yourself to listen to all kinds of different things, then you can learn some stuff that you normally wouldn't have been exposed to.
Yeah.
And my kids have been great at doing that for me, and it's something that you can learn from as an older musician, is learning some of the new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's not great. You have to sift through it, but you find something that you like. Like, I'm into lo-fi right now that is like really cool stuff, but it's different, and that's what's cool.
It makes me think about in college, my roommate he played country, and he sang country, played guitar. Well, he kept asking me, "Hey, we need a drummer this weekend." I'm like, "No, I'm not playing country."
Right.
I was against it. Well, anyway, I finally gave in and did it, and he was like, he kind of helped me with the songs. At the end of the night, they gave me $50, and I was like,
I play country.
I think I kind of like this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
And rock, we had to pay somebody to let us play.
Exactly.
And country was like paying.
Especially in this part of the world.
Sure.
So what was y'all's first bands that was that your first band?
Well, there were a lot of garage bands.
Yeah.
First real band, I don't know if any of you have heard of Snake Chili, Fierce Pig. Hey, we won the battle of the bands.
I love it, man. I love
There you go.
Anyway, we cut a CD. It was really fun, but a lot of.
What were those names again?
Snake Chili.
And Fierce Pig.
Fierce Pig.
Fierce Pig.
Fierce Pig was super heavy metal. Super heavy.
Were y'all out of the
Stephenville.
area?
Yeah. Roland Richter was our guitar player, and he was unbelievable.
Wow.
Country bands throughout the way, West Texas Surfers.
Yeah.
A group called Westbound. In college, that's what I did, is I played with a band out of Abilene, and I would drive on Friday night, play Friday night, Saturday night, and I made enough money to, go through school the next, survive the next week of school.
So, Wayne, we're going to get back to you on your first band, but I've got to stop right here.
Oh, brother.
And
I was trying to tee that up.
Wade
I'm going to fall over this shit.
has got a great story that, it's it's like musical history. If you're into, early '90s rock, he went and did an audition in Denton, Texas, which is a great music town.
Oh, yeah.
Fort Worth.
And,
Fort Worth. Was that Fort Worth?
And you actually have some artifacts from that era.
So while I was in Snake Chili, maybe that's the reason, I got a call out of the blue from this band, the Toadies.
The Toadies.
And the guy's name was Todd Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, hey, would you be interested in trying out for our band?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know who the Toadies were. They really weren't, big name like they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he sent me their demo, which was a cassette tape. And he said, learn our songs and then call me in a week or so and come up and try out.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh, why not? Maybe they'll be good. I don't know.
Right.
So I was in college at the time. Me and Tarleton, yes. Me and one of my friends, the guitar player, drove to Fort Worth, drive up to these storage buildings. and we were like, what are we doing? And I was thinking, they've got a jam room. It's, nice. And no, they rolled up this door and they had all their equipment set up. And it was three. It was a girl, I think her name was Lisa, and then Todd, and then I guess his brother. I didn't know him at the time. Anyway, I set up my drums in the corner, and we went through a couple other songs, and after we finished, we all stopped and were talking, and they were like, "All right, you got the job. They go, if you're interested, you can be our drummer
for the Toadies."
For the Toadies. So I was like, well, I need a little more information first. How often do y'all practice? And they're like, well, we practice 3 times a week, and this is in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And we play Friday, Saturday night, every weekend. And so I thought about it a little while. I was like, I can't do that. I can't afford to drive.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah, so long story short, I told them no.
Wow.
And, you look back at that and you think, what if?
So Possum Kingdom came out pretty soon after that then.
Right. This was probably in 92, 93.
I think Possum Kingdom came out in 94.
Okay.
93, 94.
But since then, I've loved the Toadies.
Yeah.
And everything they played, and I think because of my history with them. And
so can I see that little envelope?
So this was the package they sent to me, and that was the cassette, and that was just like a homemade demo.
So this is the envelope. I don't know if you can see that real well, and it's dated 92.
Yeah.
And this is the actual demo of it's getting whited out there, of the Toadies that they sent you to learn the songs.
They sent me this and another, just a homemade cassette tape.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is a cassette tape of the Toadies, and there's some liner notes, some cool stuff. There's a handwritten note.
Yeah.
And all this stuff Wade has delicately preserved through the years. And so they sent you this, learn the songs, threw it at you, learn the songs, come back and jam with us.
Yeah.
And so you kept this for all these years.
I didn't necessarily keep it. I just threw it somewhere, and I found it later on.
And then it's signed by Todd.
One of my the Toadies played at City Limits. I think it was City Limits.
They had an outside gig.
Yes. And one of my buddies knew the history, and he was like, "Hey, let's go." I'm like, "Nah." Anyway, we went, and I found this, and I took it with me. And after the concert was over, I went up and I was like, "Hey, think I could talk to Todd?" They were like, "No." So anyway, I kind of held this up, and I don't know who he was, the roadie or whatever, took it back to him, and he was gone forever. And I thought, great, I've lost it. And turns out he said he really enjoyed it, and he was looking through it all and remembering, that's early stuff.
It's history.
And he signed it. I think he signed it Vader. Vader Todd.
He's kind of going by that.
So I just thought it was cool.
So the Immediate Blues Band, 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 has a professional drummer that was 2 years ago. 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 considered part of the Toadies for a short minute.
Until I said no.
Until he said no. But that's our very own Way to Whitehead.
Yeah,
And that's a little bit of awesome music history because they went on to play. I mean, Rubberneck was an amazing album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I Come From the Water and so many great songs. And man, you could have been on that.
I think what my lesson through this whole thing is, what if?
What if?
And I think, what if I would have gone with them? All the cool things that could have happened.
Right.
But I also think what I would have missed.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't be married to my wife now.
Exactly.
I probably wouldn't have a kid now, or I might have multiple. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But
There's a lot of skilled drummers out there.
I mean, I don't regret it.
No.
In ways I do, but I really don't.
Yeah.
Because that's a totally different life than I'm living now.
But to me, that's so cool that it's a testament to how great of a drummer you are that they thought that much of you to say,
Right.
you want the gig.
Right.
Because that means
And
you
to
went up
me,
there
knowing
and you did it.
that I was offered,
Yes.
Yeah.
whether I did it or not, I was
Yeah.
offered that.
That's
so
awesome.
it kind of was justification that, hey, you were good enough.
I was good enough.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it because it was a far drive to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
3 times a week. That is a great story, man. I love it. Wayne, what was some of the first bands you were in?
So the first band that I played out in rock band, I'll skip all the jazz stuff.
Yeah.
But rock bands, I was in one for my high school talent show my freshman year. Freshman year, called the Velvet Turtles.
The Velvet Turtles.
Something with animals.
Yeah. And we played lots of REM covers.
REM.
And no, actually it was a sophomore. So, but Velvet Turtles, and we had this huge stage show. It was almost IBB-ish from the standpoint of we had 3 lead guitar players, I think.
Really?
A really good drummer, good singer. But we brought out all of this stuff. Doug Kaysen was a really good friend of mine, still is. He's a wonderful artist, but he had made our stage set. So we had, overhead projectors with different colored oils in it, so it would show up behind us in this psychedelic way. And we had a Statue of Liberty on
We
the
need to do
stage.
some of that.
It was fun. And
We need a tiny Stonehenge.
yeah,
Wayne knows how.
yeah. And then I was in a band at TCU called Trey Gunner and the Cheyenne Band, which is a country band. We recorded a little single. I wish I still had it somewhere. And then that morphed into Trey and the Tritones, which was a jazz society kind of
And
band.
y'all played like the Petroleum Club?
Petroleum Club, 3 nights a week.
Good gig.
Yeah.
Great gig.
Every 2 or 3 months, 3 nights a week, we had a standing gig at a restaurant on 7th Street called Michael's, and every Wednesday night. And I did that while I was working on my master's degree and playing with some really talented musicians, Corey Pirtle, Corey Gavito, and Trey Gunner. And then I was in a rock band in college called the Stretchy Zebras.
Stretchy Zebras?
Yeah, and we played a lot of Duck Hills covers, and the Duck Hills is an Austin band. But we played that, and just bouncing around. But when I moved down here in 2005, there was no. I don't want to be the guy that walks up to a band and go, "Hey, by the way, I'm a bass player."
Right.
And so I was just hunting around for a way to play, and happened to cross Courtney Patton.
Yeah.
And so I played a little bit with her, and that's when I met Carrie. We'd done some supper club stuff together and went out to eat a few times as large groups. But then he was like, "Hey, I play guitar, and you want to jam sometime?" So we did. That's how I started actually getting to play regularly in Stephenville.
So when I had Carrie and Kyle on, Carrie and I spoke about this. We laughed about the way we kind of got together. I met him saw him at Cotton Patch.
Yeah.
He was taking takeout, and it's like, "Hey man, if you need a drummer, I can drum a little bit." And so y'all had played 1 or 2 gigs.
I think one I think it was
just you two.
just he and I played, and I think it was at the Rock and Beat maybe.
Yeah.
To open for Courtney Patton, I believe. And we played just a few songs, but we rehearsed in his second floor kind of room in his house and learned mainly blues. It was because we were the blues band.
Yeah.
And so he has a terrific voice and a great way with lyrics of his own that he writes songs.
Great guitar player.
Yeah, and so I finally had a band.
Yeah.
And then we show up I show up and he goes, "Oh, by the way, this is Sam. Sam's gonna play drums with us."
And Carrie's own special.
And I'm like, "Cool." And so that kind of started Immediate Blues, yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly how we started. Nick and those guys with the clock outs were playing there, and we opened for them, and we didn't have a name, and Nick was like, "Hey man, I need a name like immediately," and Kerry said, "Immediate Blues Band," and that's how
really.
Sometimes you need your blues right now.
Yeah, right now.
So.
And that was awesome. And then we added some different bits and pieces here and there. Dave Carter joined.
I think we added Dave because he had a rehearsal space.
He had a house that we could all jam.
Sorry,
at.
Dave.
And he's a great guitar player.
Yeah, he's a good bass player too. So.
And then one day I was like, "Hey man, you want to play with us?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And that's how we started. And that's how we gigged for a long time. Then we added Kurt Johnson on the keys, and then when Dave left, we added Kyle, and then we had like a little powwow, and I was like, "Well, I know a guy that's badass on drums, so let's move him into the drums, and I'll move it to guitar." And then we got Stacy in for vocals, and it was just like, then that's where we're at now.
Yeah, and it is a really solid band, and not discounting anybody else who's ever played with us, because I miss getting to play with Dave, and I miss getting to play with Kurt.
Kurt's great.
Their lives took them different directions,
Yeah.
But we've ended up with a really solid band, and of course we let Kyle in the band because he has rehearsal space. So that seems to be a trend.
He has a tone labs.
Yeah. And he's amazing.
He's great, man.
So
Wade, we were talking, Kyle and I were talking about the first time we really got together was at the Dairy Festival, and we did the freestyles. Remember that?
Oh, wow.
Well, it was a power trio. Kyle was actually playing bass. I played guitar and sang, and then you were on drums. And we played about a 45-minute set, and I've got a recording of it, and it's not great, but it's fun.
Right.
And that's the first time I really jammed with you.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, and that was probably, I think Kyle said like 2012 or something like that. It's been a while.
He would know.
He would know. And that's kind of how we all kind of morphed into this whole Immediate Blues thing.
And I love playing with Kyle from the standpoint of he'll come in and you'll talk about a song you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll go, "Oh, this one," and he'll just start playing it.
Yeah.
And he like taps some pedals, and suddenly you're listening to Slash play a guitar part, or you're listening to Eddie Van Halen play a guitar part, and he nails it. And then he'll not only does he do that, but he has a poster of it somewhere on his wall, and he'll go,
And
"You
he'll
know,
point
the
it out.
history of that
Yeah.
is, Eddie Van Halen was doing this," and he knows. So it's all in there.
He reads all these autobiographies on all these guys, and he has a history of everybody, like you say. And he has a picture of just about everybody up on his wall or his ceiling, and it's just like a musical encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome because when we go to the Tone Lab, man, it's just like that's a safe zone for us, and we get to cut up and laugh and have fun and we learn.
Yeah.
Because it's always something that we don't know it all, but somebody might know this piece or might know part, and it all comes together, and that's what's great about what we do. And
Some practices we might only go through one song.
Yeah, we got 3-hour practice. We'll play through one song.
Exactly.
We'll jam a lot.
But we talk a lot.
And talk a lot.
don't tell everybody our secrets. Y'all's wives might get a little upset.
And one song, really?
Really? You were there for 3 hours.
It was an intricate song. We're trying to play Barracuda.
We still are.
We're still trying to play Barracuda.
Stacey and I finally did Barracuda acoustically, but we did it. We simplified it, and we did it in a way that I could do it on the acoustic. And she was like, "You think we can do this full band?" I'm like, "No, there's no way," because there's so many moving parts,
Yeah.
and we don't have enough practice time to get all that done. And during COVID, we practiced probably 0 times, and but we did get together and do a few remote things, and that was a lot of fun. You were great in getting all that together and putting all our pieces together, and that was something that we could do during that time because music was dead.
Yeah.
Configurations of bands and everything was dead, and appreciate that, man, because that was a lot of fun. That took a trying time and made it at least palatable.
Yeah.
To me, it's something that we'll always have.
Yeah.
And we can always look back at that and think of what we were going through.
Yeah.
And yet we still kind of got together. And I mean, we'll always have that, hopefully.
We text, we emailed, and we said, "Hey, we're going to try this, we're going to do that," and we did it.
Well, and I'm, I teach video production and communications, and so I wanted us other bands had started doing something similar, and I wanted us to be part of the zeitgeist of COVID-19. What are people doing? And so when people look at YouTube 10 years from now and they go, what is an asynchronous multi-part production? Well, that's what it is. We recorded all of our parts independently and we stitched them
Put
together.
them together.
And it came out really nice.
Yeah,
So
we did Good Day for the Blues, and then we started in on another one, Royals. I think.
Royals, and I got to finish that one.
Yeah, we'll do it at some point. But that was a lot of fun, and appreciate the help in getting all that together. But and that's what's cool about what we do, and the band. And I tell people all the time, we are not a typical band. We're a bunch of weekend warriors, but we all have professional type jobs, and we do this for fun. We don't do it for the money.
No.
If we did it for the money, we'd be, long time ago we would have given up. So, well, what do you guys see for the future? What do you want to do? What do you want to see as far as Immediate Blues, your own kids, your music? I mean, what are y'all looking towards?
I mean, I hope we can continue, because you never know, where we play, what'll happen. I always like learning new things and, trying new songs. And, as my son grows up, I hope, I can continue to help him.
Yeah.
And someday turn every bit of the equipment that I own over to him. I mean, how cool is that day going to be? Not for me, but for him.
Yeah.
All my stuff. I mean, it's his, and so I hope he'll use it.
Yeah.
Instead of sell it. And
This is
enjoy it.
kind of dark, kind of morbid, but during COVID, I listed out my gear and prices, just in case, for my kids' sake, because they don't really play music a whole lot. But I said, don't sell this one, but this is what you get for this one.
Right.
And to have that legacy like you guys both have with your kids, with your drums and your that's awesome. But I'm looking at it from the other direction, saying
I don't have kids that are
going to play the guitar, but this is what you can get for it on the secondary market.
See, my fear is that Stephanie will figure out exactly how much I really pay.
Exactly.
So, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna fall over in the
The
shop.
prices that I said I'm
Yeah.
back for are not exactly the market
Yeah,
value.
that's right. Yeah. So my hope is that we keep playing. I was only halfway joking. The one thing that I've always loved about being a musician is that as long as I can remain, aware, I can still play.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could hold me back. I can sit down in a chair, hold my bass guitar. As long as my hands, at least 4 fingers on this hand and 2 fingers on this hand work, I can play bass. And so that's something you can enjoy until you're 80, 90 years old. So I'm hoping I'm still playing bass when I'm really old.
Right.
The thing too is, it's more than just music.
Yeah, it's
You agree?
We are a family.
That's right.
So-
I mean, you're with your friends, you're with people that you enjoy being around.
Right.
It's more than just playing music.
It's back to that locker room feel.
Yeah.
You know.
When I moved down here from Fort Worth, I grew up in Fort Worth, born and raised there, lived there my entire life. And when we relocated to Stephenville, I was like, I have my wife, but there was no friends down here. And so the band has become my family and my friends, and we have each other's back when we're sick or when we have a tragedy or a drama. I mean, we're there for each other, and that's the coolest thing. I mean,
And we've had all that.
yeah.
I mean, we without saying all the things that we went through. I mean, and Stacy's kind of the mother hen.
Yeah.
She's always like, somebody's this, then we need to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about Stacy. She's always watching out for everybody, and it's good to have that.
Yeah, we need it.
You have those family members that are always going to be there, but then you have your friends that are always going to be there, and that's, to me, is what IVB is all about. Is we're friends and we're family.
Yeah.
That's what's instrumental in what we do.
And it's made it made living in Stephenville just that much better. I mean, I would not trade living here for anything. I mean, I never thought in a million years I would live in Stephenville. I mean, I grew up in Fort Worth, but coming down here and realizing the life that we can have was amazing. And then this is just icing on the cake. This is just that much better to be able to play with you guys. And the really cool part is we can show up after COVID and sell out the Greenwood and knock it out of the park and live our rock star lives and you would have thought we'd played every week with the songs we threw out there.
I think we practiced twice.
Yeah, but you know, I can count on him to always have it down. I mean, he's if I like forget something, I can look at Wade and he'll give me kind of a nod.
Yeah.
Or I can look over at you and you'll like go, it's a G, Wayne, it's a G. And so, but we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
It was fun.
A lot of songs, I was like, shit, I don't know if I remember how to play this one, but we did it.
Yeah, I have to look at Kerry and E. He's like, A. Okay.
And that's what's cool about us three is, you know, we have an unwritten, you know, code, you know, that we all look at each other and we have looks, we have head nods.
Yeah.
And when I give you that, we're going to a different key or we're going to the chorus. And then I look at Wayne, I'm like, let's end it.
Yeah.
As soon as Kyle finishes
But I look at Wade and he's going, I'm like, come on, man. I can't play this.
Sam makes a mistake sometimes if we're in the middle of a song. He'll look at me and I'll end it.
Yeah.
Damn it. So now he's like,
I don't
I'm
look
not
at you
looking
to the very
because I
end.
know you'll end it.
But, you know, then you do this drum feel, and I'm just like, holy shit. And I'm like, no, I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you.
I can't get past how we play the same song 100 times.
Different
It is
everyone.
never the same.
No.
It always starts on time, ends on time, and everything in the middle is different. And normally, as a like a trained jazz player who has a chart, y'all grew up listening and learning. I didn't know how to do that. If it wasn't written on music, I couldn't play it for a long time. So having that structure and that form was like paramount to me. And so y'all brought that out of me. We play a song differently every single time we play it, and I have the best time doing that.
Yeah. Kyle was kind of freaking out for the Greenwood gig. He was like, I said, Wade might be out for this one if we have to dress up. And he was like, I'm going to text him. I said, don't text him. He's good. You know, he's playing. He's like, I need you on guitar. I was like,
Really?
I'll play drums. I don't care. You know. And that's what our thing is like if Wade can't make a gig, I'll jump on drums. Wayne hasn't made a gig before, and I'll jump on bass. You know, it's not near as good, but it works. It gets us through.
Hey, sometimes I'll make the gig and can't play bass.
Depending on that much.
Yeah. That's enough. We don't
That's
say anything else.
enough. And you know, it's like, you know, Kyle was kind of freaking out. He was like, dude, I need you to start and stop songs for me. He's like, I can't do it.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while. And so, that's what's fun about what we do as, you know, as the rhythm section is I kind of start the songs for the most part, then we get it going. I set the tempo, you set the tempo, and then we all play, and then we just let Carrie and Kyle do their thing. And then, you know, and Carrie was like making the remark, he's like, I look at you for solos and you're waving them off. I'm like, no, I really don't need to play a solo because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, playing the rhythm, and this is the pocket, you know. And if we're all in tune and we're all, you know, vibing on what the sound is, I don't want to change that.
No.
And Kyle and Carrie they're capable of doing everything they want to do with the solos. And, you know, sometimes we got to, you know, look at Kyle a few other times. Hit him in the head with a rock or something because he's like doing this. And I'm just like.
The nice thing is that Stacy has such a commanding presence with our band, and her voice cuts through so well that she'll pick on some of that stuff and go, I'm just going to go back into the verse. And she'll just pick it up, and we all immediately transition right with her.
But certain situations with the crowd, if they really are into it, we don't need to end it.
Yeah, why would we?
Let's keep going, and we can do that.
And we did that last time we played.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like to that, you know, Wayne and I are in the back, and you know, we're doing our own thing too. You know,
you were almost out of the stage when we played the Greenwood.
I was half outside.
Yeah, of course.
People back behind me were heckling me, and
I was sitting on the jukebox. So
But I mean, I feel like, you know, Wayne and I do our part as best we can, but we also do some things, you know, a little bit outside. You know, you'll throw something in there, and I'm like, what was that? And, I mean, I enjoy that because, you know, it helps us enjoy what we're doing a little more.
Yeah.
And I know that he's going to be on time and on beat, and, you know, sometimes I'll drop a stick or something, and Wayne gets me through it.
When I know he's into it, you know, when Wayne's into it, I mean, he's just like, he's on the the 20th fret and just and I'm just like, oh snap.
When he does that, to me, he's getting bored. To me, when we're doing a song,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, this is the same, he'll start.
Well, so there's only so many ways you can play quarter notes on your low E during a song, and so
it is true.
So yeah, sometimes if I get bored with what I'm playing, or I want to add something to the song that is, or give a cue to somebody else that, hey, we should wrap this up. But there are songs where I'll go nuts because I like it, like Royals.
Yeah.
When we play Royals, I mean, I don't know if y'all have heard this, but they rearranged it as kind of a funk, and so I play it in a Rocco Prestia kind of upper register, lots of treble on my bridge pickup, but it's finger style funk. It's real fast. It's so cool because of the groove he set up front, and so when I do that, I'm digging the song. When we play "I Will Survive," Cake, or the Cake version of the Gloria Gaynor song, and I go nuts on that one. That's because I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
If I go nuts on "A Good Day for the Blues," that's because I'm ready for us to end the damn song. But
And tell me a little bit. You've told the story sometimes of your dad wanted you to be more flashy, but you didn't really want to.
no, I like being the bass player. My dad recorded me everywhere I ever played, and he, before he died, just listened to me in recordings of me with the Fort Worth Youth Jazz Band or the TCU Jazz Band or the Castleberry High School Band. He just listened to those things on repeat, but he loved listening to that. But I think I was probably meant to be a guitar player because the lines that I hear in my head are not what a traditional bass player would play. And I think that comes a lot from listening to Jaco Pastorius and those guys.
And those guys were playing stuff that normal bass players wouldn't play.
And so I did like that. But my dad really, if I was going to fart on stage, he was going to be there to record it.
Right.
So he was really pushing me, but I really was never comfortable being a soloist because that's not the function of the bass.
Right.
But if I can play a melodic line in the context of the song, then even though that's kind of the same thing, I don't feel like it, so I don't feel like I'm being showy. But
Because when you hear a song, you have a guitar and you have a drum, that's great. But you don't have the bass to hold it down, you're missing something.
yeah.
And when you have a great bass player that can play the melody, but then add a little flavor to it, I mean, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And Wade is a very unassuming drummer. He'll play the beat, but when you do the fills, man, I'm just like, damn.
And I don't know. I mean, you can see that differently. A lot of people, a lot of drummers, want to play it exactly like it's on the tape or the album, whatever.
Right.
I mean, I try to stay close, but ultimately I get bored, and I'm like, I want to put something else in here, or try something else.
Yeah.
And I might hear it in my head what goes there or what I think should go there, and so y'all allow me to kind of veer off a little bit sometimes.
Well, and one thing that's been really fun playing with you as a rhythm duo here is that if I do something that changes the feel of the song, he immediately picks up on it.
Because I'm listening to you.
And if you do that, I try to be complimentary. And so there's times where it sounds like we've rehearsed a section of a song because we'll change it from to a halftime feel or something. But it's just spontaneous. It's just us listening to each other.
Right.
And then Sam chimes right back in there, and so he'll play a complimentary rhythm part to us. And Carrie and Kyle are still soloing and doing their thing, but we've just made them sound completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
By what we're playing. It's so much fun.
And there's times too where we're not close enough together.
Yeah, if I'm not by your cymbal or your kit, I can't play.
We're pretty particular on where we set up.
Yeah.
And I had to look it up because I wanted to be historically accurate. But my favorite Pearl Jam drummer was Dave Ambrusi.
Okay.
And he was a guy from Dallas. And he went to Seattle and he played with Pearl Jam for about 3 years. The MTV Unplugged Pearl Jam, I don't know if you've heard it.
No.
You need to check it out. But Dave was kind of a flashy player. Not really flashy, but he to me, he was just like, he used a lot of splash cymbals. He had a cadence that was just, it was right there. And Dave, to me, was my favorite drummer with Pearl Jam because he did feels, but they were melodic and they were, you know, in the tempo, in the groove. But Eddie Vedder didn't like him as a drummer, and he didn't last very long because Eddie thought he was being too flashy.
Yeah.
But when you listen to that MTV Unplugged, especially Black, that's my favorite song off that MTV Unplugged. He's playing and he's feeling it, and it's in tempo, it's in time, and it's right there. But I could see where Eddie would not be real crazy about what he was doing on the drums,
Right.
because it was almost taken away from what he
Yeah.
was doing on the vocals.
I think that's the thing too, is when you do a fill or something a little, you feel like you're taken away from the vocalist, or you know, and I mean, and that's part of something you learn as a drummer.
Yeah.
You know, do your thing, stay with your part
Mm-hmm.
until it's time.
Yeah,
And when it's time, you know,
You do it.
stuff,
yeah.
but not while they're
Not while they're
it.
singing.
Yeah.
And that's, you can see Eddie in that. You got to check it out, man. The MTV Black Unplugged. Dave is out there doing his drum thing, and he's right in time. He's doing everything right, but he's adding a little more flash. Matt Cameron, who's playing with Soundgarden, and then he went over to Pearl Jam. Matt Cameron's a steady drummer, and he kind of reminds me of you. He's playing the song, and he's not going to do anything out of context, and he's going to play, you know.
Right.
But Dave was a little more flashy.
Yeah.
And Eddie looks at him a few times like, dude, what are you doing? But he's got the shield behind, you know, and he's got all the sound equipment that's kind of shielding away, because he's a little flashy. But I love it because he's expressing himself on the drums. And that's what I love about, you know, the bass. When you're out there doing on the 20th fret, I'm just like, all right, Wayne's in it. He's feeling it. And that's what's fun about playing as the rhythm section. And you get in that pocket, and us three kind of get this feel and this groove, and we're grooving, and Colin, you know, Carrie are doing their solos, and it's awesome. And that's I wave off solos all the time because I'm just loving what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and that'll be the last thing that I'd say, I guess, but we don't get in each other's way, which is hard with three guitars, a singer, and a bass player, and a drummer, and you know, when you're like me, and I'm gonna be just straight up honest. And the Greenwood gig, we hadn't played any in like months, and so I think I played everything that I know.
Yeah.
During some of those songs, because I just was so relieved to be able to get that out of my system.
To play.
Get to play and do some stuff.
Yeah.
Try not to play something inappropriate for the song, but also at the same time, just I was so thankful to get to play.
Yeah.
But even doing that, I tried to pick a time when it was between other things. So it's not like we have three lead guitar players or two lead guitar players and a rhythm player who's playing two. We all have our volume set and we all play, and the space could get so crowded, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I mentioned that with Kyle and Carrie the other day. It was like, my tone is kind of just this mid-range tone where it's kind of like, you know, this is right here on the sonic spectrum. Kyle has got this lead tone that's just like ear-piercing, but it's great. And Carrie has this melodic tone. Carrie could play any amp, any guitar, and it sounds like Carrie.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's as three guitar players, that's what you want. You want three different sounds, but at the same time coming
Unique.
together. Yeah.
And and to go back to something that Wade said right up front, the fact that we're all grounded and we have a day job.
Yeah.
It means we have equipment that performs well.
Yeah.
And I thought you were going to go. Kerry could play anything you wanted because he
could
get any guitar he wanted.
He could.
And the one he has is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then
Kyle
Kyle
played
had
an Eric Johnson signature Strat. Kyle has a signature Les Paul.
Yeah.
I've got a PRS, John Mayer edition, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they just you'll sound like Kyle sounds like Kyle, whether he's playing that or he's playing the homemade Telecaster, or I don't know if Dave made him a guitar, but I mean,
Did you order your new bass yet?
I have not ordered my new bass.
Come on, Stephanie.
Yeah, see, there's no peer pressure, but
Stephanie, Wayne needs that new bass. Just
It
saying.
really does.
He really does. It'd make him sound so much better. So, anyway. All right, fellas. Any last final parting words that you'd like to say or impart?
Come out and see us next time you see us
Yeah.
in town playing. We're playing at
And so our next gig, good segue, is July 30th
yeah,
at Fuzzy's in Granbury.
it's Friday night, right?
It's a Friday night. Those guys were at the gig, the owners of Fuzzy's, and they were like, "How can we get you to play there?" And I was like, "Just give us a shout, and we'll make a way to do it." And we are going to play there. So that's going to be fun. We need to practice a few times before we get there, or at least once. But other than that, anytime you see us, please come up to us, and if you like what you hear, let us know. And if you don't like, well, let us know as well. But we play songs that are going to be enjoyable, relatable, and play a lot of covers. I mean, 99% of what we play is covers. We might throw a Carrie original in there at some time, but for the most part, we do what we love, and which is songs that we grew up with and songs that we love to play. And we try to do a few new things. Stacy and I do some acoustic covers that we try to incorporate into the band situation as well. So, guys, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out, and we'll do it again sometime, and at a venue near you. So that is the rhythm section of Immediate Blues. Wade Whitehead on drums, Dr. Wayne Atchley on the Doctor of Bassology, Dr. Wayne Atchley on bass, and myself. And we follow the groove and we go with it and allow the others to input their creativity. So this is episode number 5, Immediate Blues Band, Rhythm Section. And thanks for listening.